Before we begin, take a second to subscribe. Stories like this only work if we hear them together. It was just a compliment, he said. And then my husband stood up from the table and walked out of our marriage. The restaurant was one of those warm, low-lit places with real candles and chipped wooden tables. The kind we used to love when we were broke and newly married. 10 years later, we were back there for our anniversary, pretending effort could revive something already tired. I remember the smell of garlic and butter, the clink of glasses, the soft hum of other people's happiness. Then the waitress smiled. She couldn't have been more than 25. Polite, professional. She handed my husband his drink and said, "I love your watch. It looks really good on you." I smiled too, automatically, trained. But I noticed how his shoulders straightened, how he glanced at his reflection in the dark window beside us, how his phone lit up on the table, face down, buzzing once, twice, and then stopping. "Thanks," he said, holding her gaze just a second too long. That should have been nothing, a throwaway moment. But my chest tightened in a way I didn't understand yet. The rest of dinner felt off. He barely touched his food, kept checking his phone. When I asked if everything was okay, he said, "You're imagining things," without looking at me. A phrase he'd started using more often lately, right alongside late meetings, sudden gym habits, and showering the second he got home. When the waitress came back to clear our plates, she laughed at something he said. I didn't hear the joke. I just saw his smile, wide, easy, familiar in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I said softly, "You don't have a flirt." He froze. Then he laughed. Too loud. "Relax. It was just a compliment." People were looking. I felt small, embarrassed, old. He stood up, tossed cash on the table, and said, "I'm not doing this," like I'd ruined something sacred. And then he left, just walked out. I sat there alone, staring at the empty chair across from me, wondering when a marriage becomes so fragile that a single sentence can shatter it. Was it really about the compliment? Or was that just a moment everything finally showed itself? I didn't cry that night. Not when I paid the rest of the bill. Not when I drove home, alone with the passenger seat empty and the radio off. Not even when I found the side of the bed untouched, perfectly smooth, like he'd already decided not to come back. I cried the next morning, standing in the kitchen, staring at his coffee mug still in the sink. Lit mark on the rim. Not mine. He texted at 9:14 a.m. I stayed at Mark's. "We'll talk later." Later. Another word that had become a shield. I went to work, but I didn't work. I replayed the last 6 months instead. The phone always face down. The way he'd started guarding it like a secret diary. The new password. The sudden obsession with looking younger. New clothes, different cologne, whitening strips lining our bathroom shelf. I told myself it was a phase. A midlife reset. Anything but what it actually was. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I opened our shared tablet. He'd forgotten it synced his messages. There was a name I didn't recognize. Just a first name. Short, casual, too familiar. I can't stop thinking about last night. "You looked so good at dinner. Wish I could have stayed longer." My hands shook as I scrolled. Compliments turned into confessions. Jokes turned into plans. Plans turned into lies. About me. About our marriage. About how complicated his life was. The timestamp punched the air out of my lungs. The messages started weeks ago. The same week he'd accused me of being emotionally distant. The same week he stopped touching me unless it was routine. The same week he told me I was overreacting to everything. It wasn't just a compliment. It was lunches, late nights, a hotel receipt buried in a photo backup, a picture of him in that same watch, taken in a mirror that wasn't ours. When he finally came home that evening, I was sitting on the couch with the tablet in my lap, calm in a way that scared even me. He took one look at my face and knew. "It's not what you think," he said immediately. The classic opening line of every lie ever told. I asked one question. Just one. "How long?" He didn't answer. He just sat down, buried his face in his hands, and whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." That's when I realized the hardest truth wasn't that he cheated. It was that he'd already chosen someone else. I waited for the rest of his explanation. For tears, for remorse, for something, anything that could make this feel like a pause, not a full stop. But all I got was silence. The kind that presses against your chest and refuses to let air in. I thought we were drifting, he finally said, voice small, almost a whisper. I didn't think it mattered. My hands tightened around the tablet, knuckles white. Not matter? 10 years. Every birthday, every late-night talk, every fight, every laugh. It didn't matter. He flinched at my words. I don't think he expected the rage that comes from heartbreak, the quiet, burning kind that doesn't yell, but makes every word feel like fire. He stopped. He knew there were no words. I remembered the restaurant. His laughter, wide and easy, directed at her. The way he looked at her like she was a version of me I could never be again. The smell of garlic and butter mingling with betrayal. I packed a bag. I said, my voice calm but my hands trembling. I'm leaving. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No protests. No promises. Just a hollow look that matched the empty apartment. That night, I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't cry in front of him. I just walked out. The hallway smelled faintly of his cologne, the one I used to love. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Weeks later, the dust settled. I found strength in the quiet, in the independence I'd forgotten existed. Friends visited. Texts came in. And slowly, I started to breathe again. He reached out once, months later. A simple, cold message. Can we talk? I didn't reply. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to punish him. But because some doors once closed are never meant to be reopened. Love can be beautiful, but it can also be a warning. A whisper you ignore until it screams. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a compliment, a glance, a smile directed at someone else, leaving you to gather the pieces. If this story touched you, or you've ever been through something like this, share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe. Some stories are painful, but hearing them makes us feel less alone.